Welcome back, Kinger's Garage, Kinger here. Today, we're working on our newest purchase. So, bought a 700 Polaris Sportsman. It has a 2-up seat, and I was thinking that I would use that out at our farm, and my oldest daughter could learn to drive that while I sat on the back. And we went on one park ride down to an ATV park. Quickly realized that was not going to be comfortable nor easy. The Sportsman is a 05, does not have power steering. I did not know that when I bought it. So I immediately went and looked for something cheap but fun, and for her to ride, I'll ride the 700. And I ended up with this 500 Scrambler. Of course, it's a Kinger special. I bought it running and driving, but it did not run great. There was a couple of issues with what the seller was saying. I don't think he was being mischievous, but either way, it wasn't up to snuff. It wouldn't idle very well. It wouldn't, you had to shut the gas off or the carb would overleak. So I dug into it and I did a video of how to get to the carb. And I did that. It's a YouTube short. You can go check that out. But since then, what I found is that I have an Amazon special carburetor on this machine. It does not say Mikuni on it. And to go buy the original Mikuni is about 600 bucks. So being with time with what it is and how limited it is and how much I don't want to mess with this machine, I went ahead and ponied up for the OEM carb. So we're going to be putting on an original Mikuni. I'm going to be changing some fluids. I've got a GPS gauge cluster I'm going to put on this so we have some speedometer and hours and odometer data so I know when to service it again. But we're going to get this thing all fixed up, ready for my daughter. Next time we go to an ATV park, she's going to be on this. So let's get to it right now. And here we have the brand new carburetor. You can see Mikuni Corp. That's what I'm looking for. This came made in Japan. This is the OE goodness. This is an 01 Scrambler. They came with a 40 millimeter mouth right here. I believe the prior years had a 34, so a little bit bigger, but this should bolt in. I'm not even going to open the bowl and check the jets. I believe this is fully assembled, ready to rip. Let's do it. This here is the original. The Amazon cheapie. I do need to take this bracket off here. Assuming I can get these screws off without stripping everything out. I don't know why we need to use the world's cheapest screws on carburetors and equipment. They all seem to just not be very good. Look at how tough that is. Oh my gosh. How about these guys? How about now? Oh my. There's one. Oh my gosh. And of course, this one doesn't come with a new cap, so I need to save this cap and this cord. Hopefully it works in the new carb. Let me figure out how to get those screws off. All right, little impact driver, rip these out, no big deal. As you can tell, I got my little bowl rigged up here, so all my parts fall right into that. It works really, really nice and really, really good. So as I take parts off of this carburetor, I'm just going to install them directly on the new one so I know how it goes. And, okay, those don't need to be superhuman tight anyway. And I'm just eyeing that up. Yep, that's gonna sit on those. So that looks like the right angle. I don't think this bit will probably be big enough. Okay, that works. Okay. See that? I drop that screw. And right in the bowl. That's why I do that. I get smarter as I get older. I guess that's a good thing about getting older. All right, let's just set that off to the side. Let's put that in there so we don't lose it. Now I just gotta figure out how to get this bad boy off of here. If I remember right. So all I'm trying to do is line up the cable with the notch here And this should just pop out. Just like so. A little bit nut, screws, we peel this back. Oh yeah, there we go. I'm sure this just unscrews. There we go. Again, hopefully this is OEM. It connects to mine just fine. Really fighting me. Maybe I'll slide, maybe, oh, there we go. See, again, that's why I have my little bowl. So now you just don't want to break off that little stop there. That just slides into that keeper. And now that should just screw into my new carb. This, where does that go? That goes on to, so that's got a red clamp. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to mix up these hoses. So I guess I can't mix them up. This is the long one, this is the short one. The long one goes on the side of the bowl. Comes off like that. One on the back side here. Same deal. Come on. There she goes. And then here's her choke. And actually, since I have it out, I just have the choke out. But we have a carburetor off. That's step one. Step two, let's get this guy set on there. Let me do my hoses right before I even get distracted here. Bada bang, bada boom. Oh yeah, now we're cooking. Okay, now I know where all that goes. Put this clamp back on. Ooh yeah. Anybody else shocked that this is a $600 carb? I don't know when carbs got so expensive again, but they did. So, kind of frustrating, but at the same time, it is what it is. All right, with the choke removed, the assembly goes like this. This screws into here, like so. Then this spring goes over that. And then you pull back that spring, hold it with your finger, slide your plunger in there. And now when you pull your choke, that's what it's doing inside there. And now you slide that in here and screw it in. A lot of people say you need a special tool for this. This is a 12 mil, you can get on it. I don't think you need a special tool. It is easier to turn the whole cable. So I like to just spin everything at once. Get her snug down, and then I'll get on there with a 12 mil and give that a little ooga-dooga, and we'll call that one good. All right, we have everything. This carb has got the 2 fuel lines. One's a feed, one's like a pulse for the fuel pump, the choke cable, and throttle cable, vice versa. Now let's get back in the unit. So what I did is I go like this. And she just takes some muscle. Boot's molded perfectly to this carb. It was not for the Amazon carb. All right, there we go. So don't know if you can see this here, how well that boot kind of comes in and kind of touches in here, and you know you're in. You really can't go any farther. If you can see it. This idle screw right here, it you just reach in and you're able to turn it and adjust your idle speed. So, all right, next part of the process is the fuel tank. So like I said, this has these little tabs that slide in to little holes in the frame in the front. We're gonna make sure we don't trip fuel over from this little vent line. And at the same time, we gotta hook up our fuel hose. And once you know, like a Damas, I have it full of gas right now. Not the best choice to fill it up with gas right before this, but to my credit, I wasn't expecting to do this. Okay, so before we slide it in there, I like to just tilt it up like this. Get my little handy dandy fuel line on here, like so. Use my little pressure clamp. Dunsies. All right. Now, this is the tricky part. This goes actually underneath, and this goes on the outside. And you would think that this is an awful pinch point right here. You would be right. It has to come. I need a little more slack. And I don't think the previous owner had enough slack in it. There we go. See how that fits now? So, can you see that right there? This wire comes down, goes around this sharp edge, and then there's a hole or a slot kind of in behind here. And then this wire, this is your main wire harness that goes up from your CDI up here. This just needs to stay on the outside like so, okay? Now, get back here, look at this gap. Well, when you take it off, you end up having this weird foam piece, and it's got, mine is all of course destroyed, but it's got this little bushing that goes in like so. Like so, okay? Last piece of the puzzle is your remote fuel line. If you take a peek at this, this goes on that little red piece right there, and then it comes out through this hole right here. And when you put a screw on this, then this is what your fuel's off, on, and reserve. And of course, I got the little diagram right there for you. So we'll put that on next. All right, I got things good enough to try to test fire. You're with me, first start. I got my choke cable here pulled out, key on. Let's see what happens. Finally. Like I said, these fuel pumps can take a little bit to prime. I'm gonna let it gravity fill here for a second and come right back. There we go. Just needed some fuel, took a little bit. If you're ever doing a carb swap, don't be afraid when it doesn't start like that. That just took some time. I let the gravity fill the bowl of the carburetor, and then once it filled up, then the fuel pump started pumping, and away it went. So don't be nervous if it doesn't start right away after you do that on these. I don't know if you can see this, but this is the fuel tank valve, they call it. That's underneath the fuel tank, and it's leaking oil very inconsistently. If I go up there and grab it, it'll leak like a sieve. Like, I think the housing is cracked. And then looking at it closer, it looks like it's on backwards. And I think what's happening, this is another Amazon special part. So I just ordered an OEM Polaris to replace it in a gasket. And I also got the foam seal to replace that disheveled mess too. So we'll get this fixed back up and continue on here. Day 2, got some parts. Let's get this fuel valve replaced. Let's go. All right, so I had this all installed when I noticed this was leaking underneath here on that fuel valve. It does seem to have stopped, but there's no reason for it to stop. I think it's a false positive. Let's put it that way. So I think I'm going to actually drain the tank. I think this is all full, and so let's get that tank drained. So I can replace that valve and then put it in here. It's a lot lighter. All right, I was gonna try to just pop this valve and try to get this into this little gas can, but you know what they say about guys and their aim. Let's just put a little hose on there. Put that little hose in there. And here we go. Let's let that all drain out, and then we'll replace this petcock and the gasket. This is the old foam that I did get new. So still make it right here. Look at that. We got a brand new foam retainer. But of course, where'd this one go? Oh yeah, it's down there. You see that? Yeah, that's where it is, of course. Oh, come on. Come on. Yes. Nailed it. Shoot. This just went flying off. Spilled gas here and all over. Beautiful car. Gotta get it washed. Be right back. This is my first time using ceramic coating. Highly recommended. There we go. That gas was on there. Apparently, ceramic coating is gas resistant. That's my girl. Some of you don't know or follow this channel. This thing here is my little prized possession. I wanted it since high school. It's LS swapped, 500 horsepower, immaculate. Tried to make a 1993 new again. So, whew, that was not my brightest shining moment right there, boys and girls. Oh, look at that, I missed one. Right there is from fuel. Be right back. How about, let's not be an idiot and park the fancy car right next to the pouring gasoline, shall we? Okay then. Sorry, extremely shiny, barely used, practical sports car. I love you. All right, here it is up on the bench. Let's just rip these off. Whose OCD is killing them? Me using an impact gun on a plastic tank. Just me? Okay. All right. We'll skip the impact gun. It wasn't really bothering me like it was you guys. I'm sure it's way worse for you than it was for me. It wasn't that bad for me. Serious. I'll just rip this off. Tear a hole in the tank. Looks like these tanks are kind of unobtainium, so that'd be fun. Let's get this off. There we go. That works. That's much better. Now, the previous owner said he got this from Amazon and he put it on crooked. And I don't know what in the heck that means. So I've got the Polaris one here. This looks like a protector or something here. So that's what it looks like. So this is your main tank. So this sits up. And this is when you flip it to reserve, it allows it to kind of suck it dry. You see that screen goes all the way down? So I'm just curious, what does this one look like? First off, there's all kinds of gunk in there. Second of all, how do you put it on backwards? I don't get it. I don't know how you do that backwards. There is no backwards. He's saying that this thing should be flipped over this way. I don't think so. There's only one way that thing goes. Unless I flip it, it can't go that way because then this is where your extension for your fuel petcock is. You know, it comes out here, past the frame over into here. So I don't know how it can be backwards. Very, very interesting how he would say that. It's got gunk on it. Oh gosh, look at all the gunk on this. I mean, that alone could be, maybe he just like wham bam thank you ma'amed it and didn't like clean up any of the gasket material here. I don't know what this white stuff is. He had a quart gasket, but oh, look at that quart gasket. He was trying to reuse that bugger. She gone. She gone. That's where it was leaking. Fuel valve's okay, I just needed a gasket. Oh yeah, that's why you got all this mess in here. See all that? Maybe you can't even see that. There's a mess all the way around in here. All right, enough talking, let's get to work. Okay, last thing, then we'll get it done. Look what that says right there. And this is the OEM one from Polaris, US patent. This guy, Amazon cheapie. So much for your patents, Polaris. That really kind of makes me mad. America, baby. One thing I will say on this patented Made in America quality is this thing to flip. I mean, I'm not faking that. That takes a lot of pressure. That baby is tight. Good and tight inside of there. That other one I could just flip around by hand like it was loose as a goose. So I think that other one was leaking. I think the fact that it stopped leaking was coincidence just of how it was positioned. This is quality. This is American made, baby. Let's go! Ladies and gentlemen, I present you with a nice piece of shit. Get that out of here. Look at that bad boy. Step it up, boys. New seal. Let's go. Oh, there you go. Brand new seal. So tight. So tight. There you go, pretty seal. He's a pretty seal. Yeah, it's a happy seal. That's what we like. We like happy seals. Like happy, random foam gas tank happy seals. That I have no idea why there's such an elaborate happy foam seal. But there is. And we got it. So the point of this is to take fuel that, number one, sloshes out of here when you're completely full, and you make a loop. And then the fuel goes down to the loop. The tank is always under vacuum, obviously, because you're sucking fuel out. So eventually it has to have air or the tank would collapse. So the other end of this is open and sucks in air and allows the fuel level to come down. But when you have that loop, if fuel comes out, of course, the next thing when it wants to suck, it's going to suck that fuel back in the tank. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Now this is the only opening. There is no filter or anything on there, which still bothers me. But it bothers me less because I can hide this. A lot of people, sometimes the factory, I think, shoves them in the frame, something like that, so that inside the frame, it's pretty safe. All right, we're all buttoned up. Got the new seal, new tank vent. I just ran it through here, came up, went down here, looped it around an existing valve, just zip tied it to that, and then running up by the handlebars. So that's a big enough loop that the tank will be able to breathe, and it's pretty well protected up there. It wasn't even dirty there. So, I mean, this four-wheeler wasn't taken off-road extensively. It probably still won't. So I'm not worried about dust getting in the tank anymore. I'm not worried about fuel spilling it in my daughter's lap when she rides it. I think what's next is airbox and get this plastic down, and we can finally call this carburetor swap dunsies. All right, last piece of the puzzle. The old carb did not have, this is a drain tube. That's an Allen head. If you were to unscrew that, you can drain your float bowl through here. That was just sitting open to the elements. And so I put on a new line there. This line goes up to the airbox. There's two of them. There's one on each side. This one was really hard to get at without I had to take this back apart. This horn, this air intake. I had to take that back apart, and then I actually undid the clamp here and sort of forced this little hose up into the airbox nipple, and then was able to grab it from that side. Then I made the connection back here. So airbox is fully connected. When I took it apart, both of those nipples were disconnected, and I see why. It's a pain in the ass. Then the other thing is the fuel gas tank vent. Like I said, I came down here, I went underneath here, and then that's that line right there, looped up to the handlebar. So I've got all new vent lines. I've got all new foam on the back. I've got my airbox in there. I've got the brand new carburetor. I got this fuel petcock replaced. Works really, really good now. That's it. Let's move on to the GPS. Okay, last thing. As you know, these do not come with a mile or odometer, an hour meter, speedometer of any sort. So I had this old Garmin Nuvi from I don't know how long ago. I used to use it on my snowmobile. It's never been used for ATVs, but it would at least give a speed and miles. It'll do, and I can reset that. So I reset it to 0. So every time I turn on the key, this will come on. It'll keep track of the miles, and it'll give a speedometer readout for my daughter. So I thought I got this ram mount. I just put it to the handlebar here, just with the clamp, and then over here. And then I got the wires kind of routed from the unit into the pad. And then I think what I'll do is I'll go down the handlebar, nice and neat. And then there's this little box that I bought off eBay that converts to 5 volt from 12 volt. And so it's going to give me a crap ton of extra wires. I feel like I could cut and splice in here, but the wires are so small. I wanted to show a little trick. So this is the ground wire. I don't know if you can see this. I think it's about 24 gauge. It's super, super thin. And I got the ground connected to this central ground block here where all these grounds are. So I just put a little eyelet on there. And then a little trick I learned a long time ago, when you do that, is I took and I stripped off from the wire probably about like that much, like quite a bit, like say 3 inches. And then I coiled the wire on itself in a 1/4 inch to build it up and to like stick it into a normal spade terminal, crimp terminal. Then I used some really good heat shrink, and you heat shrink it and it gives it a lot of support. And then I use these zip ties because the wire was so small, even the heat shrink didn't squeeze onto it. But when you have this thing nice and warm after you just heated it and shrunk it, put these zip ties in, and I don't know if you can see the indentation they made, but it is grasping onto that wire now. And now you've got a nice strong connection right there. And so the only thing that could fail eventually may be that this wire is just too thin. But I'm gonna put it all up in here. On these units, this little bundle of wires, it leads to an open spade and female version, and you just throw a male version on and you got 12 volt power, baby. So the 12 volt into the box to convert to 5 volt. Up to the GPS. Let's power it up and see what it looks like. Okay, I'm going to turn the switch to on. You can see we're in neutral. The Garmin boots up. And now one thing I noticed that when I use this little plug-in module from eBay, this thing takes an extraordinary long time to boot up, at approximately 1 minute. See, it does this, and it'll do that for 1 minute versus when I plugged into like a cigarette lighter, it comes on in about 15 seconds. So I'm not sure what's going on here, but I'm going to come right back as soon as it boots up. Okay, it's back. Now, that might be annoying. It's a minute, but I don't know how much I care. I think I'd rather that. My alternative is I wire up a 12 volt socket underneath there instead of that 5 volt adapter. Anyway, what she'll do is once this boots up, she'll just hit view map to touch screen. And then if she just touches the speed right here, this will give her a nice instrument cluster where it has our max speed, moving odometer, blah, blah, blah. So this will help, and then I'll just make sure we never reset this, or I'll reset it in between oil changes or something like that. But I wanted something to be able to see how many miles are on it before I change fluids and stuff like that. So this will work perfect for now. And hey, it was in my toolbox for free. Yay! Okay, I think it's hooked up. Everything is back connected. I want to give it a test fire. This is the first time I fired it up, kind of all buttoned back up. Let's see how well or not well it starts, and then I'll finish up my instrument cluster here and call it a wrap. Oops. Choke out. I'm gonna leave the choke out for a little bit. Choke is out. I'm gonna push it in right now. Oh, I already had it in. So it just needs a little choke. She sits there and purrs like a kitten. Absolutely amazing. This thing did not run at all before. You were constantly messing with it. I think it's even on a little bit of a high idle right now, so this is great. Sounds great. Once it warms up, I'll get the idle adjusted down to where it needs to be, and we'll go from there. Next step, test drive.